When I say Conor McGregor, who do you think of? You probably thought of the Conor that we had 7 years ago. The bro was funny, he was hungry, and he was so different from those who came before him. The way he carried himself was so magnetic, and it was like we couldn't not root for him. The McGregor era from 2013 to 2016 is unmatched. Though we've seen glimpses of the Conor that we fell in love with, no homo, shine through here and there, people change, bro. We can't just expect him to devolve. As a lifelong fan of him, here's the McGregor era retold. 2013. Conor had just folded Ivan Bushinger to become the two-weight world champion of Cage Warriors. During a business trip to Dublin, everybody harassed Dana about signing Conor.
And I'm like, who the hell is Conor McGregor?
Trying to see what all the fuss was about. Dana spent some time with Conor and he instantly saw the dollar signs.
I told Lorenzo, if this kid can fight this much, if he can even throw a punch, this kid is gonna be so. And it's bigger than anything I've ever seen before.
The way Conor grabbed us with his personality, he would do to Dana first. Before Dana had even seen him fight, he told Lorenzo Fertitta that he was gonna be a bona fide star. In other words, Conor rizzed up Dana.
Is he fucking awesome?
In his debut fight against Marcus Brimage, we would see pieces of old make him the biggest star in the sport. His intensity, getting into his opponent's head, his flashy style, and a funny post-fight interview. It was pretty clear from the get-go that he was something special. But what set him apart from the others and what made us connect with him on a deeper level was the fact that Conor was just genuinely having a good time, and that was contagious.
He wore the thing he wears, the mask, and I just said, listen, you're nearly 30 years old now. I think it's time to stop wearing a superhero mask. Things like that don't bother me, you know. It shouldn't bother any fight, you know. You could do anything to me. You could say what you want.
That's what I believe the magic of Conor really was. Some people tried to replicate the trash talk or the intimidation tactics, but that's not really what made Conor so appealing. Bro just won his debut. He made racks off the bonus, and he was just having a good time at the post-fight presser, cracking jokes and shit.
Just last week I was collecting the social welfare, you know what I mean? I'm gonna have to... I was insane to them, like, I don't know what's gonna happen, like, I'm signed to the UFC, I don't know what, blah blah blah, but now I suppose I'm just gonna have to tell them to fuck off.
It was clear that he was having fun, and in turn, we were having fun too.
I don't know what the fuck's going on, to be honest, bro.
Next up, he'd fight a young Holloway and win via decision because Max is the hardest chin known to man. During the fight, he'd accidentally press the wrong button and blow his knee out. Tough. After a year of recovery, he'd come back with a vengeance. This time he was slated to main event in his hometown in Dublin, Ireland, and he would end up folding Diego Brandao in one round. He spoke what he meant beforehand, and he spoke what he meant afterwards, and again, he was just having some fun. You know, some people criticize the sportsmanship of Conor, specifically his trash talk, and Conor's fans will jump to his aid saying, oh, Conor's not really an asshole, guys, he's just playing it up to sell the fight, but I don't really see it that way. He is an ass. He's just a fun, competitive guy who's gonna talk a little bit of trash. It's just who he is, bro, and it's not hard to see. He was never really malicious, in this era at least. He was just being him, whether people loved it or hated it. Next fight, Dustin Poirier. This was a big step up in competition. It may be one of my favorite press conferences of all time. Conor's got the whole squad laughing as he repeatedly roasts the fuck out of Dustin.
His chin is deteriorating. Every single contest he gets in, he hits one knee. A gust of wind and he does the chicken dance. You know what I mean? I like the kid. He's a quiet little hillbilly from the back ass of nowhere. You know, his cousin's probably named Cletus or something. I don't know. He's a nice kid.
He wasn't mean, he wasn't nasty, but I guess it got Dustin a little bit insecure.
You know, that's something that happens every night, every day, and every time it's different, you know. Sometimes it's on the feet, sometimes it's submission, but in the end, my hand's raised every time, and I'm 100% confident in that, you know.
You know, he doesn't have a vision of what's going to happen, as you can clearly see.
I'm really coming along as a fighter, and I feel like I'm hitting my stride right now, and it couldn't be better.
Get wobbled in every fight, Dustin.
This is one of the most underrated mental breakdowns of a fighter because Conor didn't even do much except point out some facts, have a little fun, and bring the crowd onto his side, which I guess did not sit well with Cletus's cousin.
I've never disliked somebody that much that I've ever fought. I've never disliked somebody that much that I've ever fought.
I'm a nice guy now. What? He likes me after I whoop his ass.
Before we knew it, he was yelling at people at the weigh-ins, getting into his own head when answering questions, and getting pissed moments before the fight even started. He would later say shit like he just wanted to hurt Conor and he was angry all the time.
Not even seeing the footage, I can remember what that felt like.
This deadass felt like some kid just being bullied, bro. Like, can't compete on the mic, can't compete in the ring. Dustin got smoked in the first round. Nearly got knocked out in the first 2 seconds, but met his fate 90 seconds later. Another classic interview. Conor drops a few lines that would stick for a while.
You can call me Mystic Mac.
And in the post-fight presser, Conor would continue to let his personality shine.
I had no ill feelings towards Dustin. It was weird to me that he was like, I've never hated a guy as much as I hate this guy. To me, that is weird. I cannot hate a man that has the same dreams as me. I am cocky in prediction. I am confident in preparation. But I am always humble
in victory or defeat.
He wasn't just some cocky trash talker, he was a three-dimensional human being that had likable traits and was pretty easy to root for. In his hardest fight to date, Conor would have an absolute slugfest against the GOAT Dennis Siver. Again, flamed him in the press conferences.
Midget, German, steroid head.
After an absolute domination by Dennis Siver, Conor would pull victory from the jaws of defeat with an absolute fluke of a second round knockout. Afterwards, he'd jump over the cage and scream at Aldo. Nice. His title shot was set up, as hype trains usually do. He got to skip most of the hard matchups and went straight for the crown. This was criticized by a lot of people, but who gives a fuck? They flew around the world to promote the fight. Aldo got bullied. And the big grudge match between the two was finally on the horizon. McGregor versus Aldo. UFC 189. Yeah, Aldo pulls out.
He broke his fucking rib.
Oh my god.
Just carry on business as usual, innit? Doesn't matter who it is, Adam. Whoever steps in the pairs is getting taken out. Whoever it is getting fucked up bad.
2 weeks from the title fight and it's ripped out of Conor's hands because Aldo hurt his rib. Conor was a very prideful man. He never really pulls out of fights for good and for bad. Conor versus Mendes was set up and this was a horrible fight for Conor on paper. This was already a bad matchup, and knowing what we know now with hindsight, this was an even worse matchup for Conor at the time because he had blown out his ACL again.
Hey, Tom. Is that pop? Yeah. My leg? Yeah. Are you serious? Yeah. No. Anytime I compress now, it's sore.
Conor is training without ACL. You're not supposed to be able to walk without ACL.
As we've seen from people like Darren Till, once your knees are gone, you can't defend takedowns for shit. Mendes was the one dude who was gonna actively shoot for takedowns over and over and over again as his main offense. That ain't good, bruv. Not only that, Conor's wrestling game was relatively untested and he was previously taken down by the GOAT Dennis Siver. This was like a Hamzat versus Burns type of situation. We were finally gonna see if the hype was worthy of... No, fuck. We were finally gonna see if the hype was actually warranted. Conor has a cinematic walkout, being sung out to battle by Sinead O'Connell. Joe Rogan puts it pretty well here, so I'll let him talk.
The story of this fight is not just Conor McGregor, it's Ireland. This is a fight about how much pride these people have. We've had a lot of Brazilians come to see Brazilian champions fight and compete, but there's never been anything like this. The Irish people have come out tonight in a way that just defines them as a nation. And this man has incredible weight on his shoulders right now. The pressure that he's experiencing right now, the hype behind all of this, very few human beings in this world will ever experience anything remotely similar to what's going on inside the mind and the body of Conor McGregor as he steps into this octagon right now.
Before the fight, although Conor pulled his usual antics,
I can rest my balls on your forehead.
he was surprisingly honest in his assessment. Mendes would get him down. Mendes would be tough. Mendes would go for it in a way Conor's previous opponents hadn't been able to. Nowadays, we all know Conor as the person who did it all. The rich, fucking crazy weirdo who did it all. But here, he was just a contender with a big mouth.
Conor is a very one-dimensional fighter. He's a long southpaw stand-up fighter. He doesn't have wrestling, he doesn't have jiu-jitsu. You know, you wipe all that hype out of here, I'm gonna get in there and destroy this dude.
When I'm pressing him, and we have these exchanges and these scrambles, and his belly is gonna be breathing in and his body is gonna be screaming for oxygen, and I'm gonna be still there in his face, cracking him with everything I have, every shot, the heel, the knee.
I don't know how you're gonna be pressuring anything from your back, dude.
What you gonna do? You can't even pass guard. You're a white belt on the mat. What, you get me down, you hold me down? I'll butcher you from the bottom. I'll get back up and I'll butcher you on the feet.
Listen to this place. Oh, big shots by McGregor. Look at the clock closely. 10 seconds. Oh, he's hurt. Could he finish him here? That's it. It's all over. Conor McGregor is the UFC interim featherweight champion. Wow. 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 Unbelievable. He did it.
Conor finally did it. He was never really one to show much emotion in there, but after suffering through a war, after the injuries, after the changing of opponents, and finally proving himself to the world, he broke down. They can't say anything anymore. He finally did it. But it wasn't actually over yet. Aldo was still the champion. Conor was only the interim champion. The fight was rebooked. Conor versus Aldo, UFC 194. Conor brought a bit of a different energy this time around. Leading up to it, yeah, we still got the funny trash talk and shit. This time he went after the whole damn roster.
Fuck everybody else up here.
But Conor had this laser focused aura. In a lot of his other stare downs in the cage and at the weigh-ins, he's trying to rile up his opponent, but it's like over here he already knew the work was done. Conor and Aldo are in the cage. Complete polar opposites in their energy. Conor is loose, having fun, being present, taking it all in, while Aldo looks stiff and like he's in his own head.
Here we go! Green trunks for the southpaw, the notorious Conor McGregor. Black trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr. Conor relaxed and smiling.
Pause. If you've watched this far into the video, you know how this fight goes. I'ma keep it a stack with you. I'm a complete sucker for the universe will grant you what you wish for, you know, that wishy-washy law of attraction type shit. Like, I love that shit. Conor speaks at length about these things, practicing the law of attraction, speaking his future into existence, visualizations.
My sister, when I was a young kid at around 15 years of age, unsure where I was going, came to me with a book, The Secret, preaching the law of attraction. Yeah. And I was like, stop. Get away from me, I'm only a young kid. I didn't care about that. I wanted to just go out and play. But then she kept on me with it, and then it started to resonate with me, like to keep positive and have belief in where you're going. And you can almost visually create your entire world. Not almost, you actually can. I'm going to do that, and I will do that. And then that's when I began to practice it. I would always visualize that the car park space right at the front door would be empty for me, waiting for us to pull up. And sometimes I'd get it, and sometimes I wouldn't get it. When I got it, I'd celebrate it like I just won my double world title. You know, and I kept building on that, and I got better at it. I became so damn good at it that I was able to go into bouts and tell the world, I'm gonna knock this man out with this exact shot at this exact time, and I done it back to back to back.
There are so many clips of him saying exactly what was going to happen and how it was going to happen in this fight. Every time he gave a precise analysis about the fight, it was always his left hook countering Aldo's right hand.
I felt when we stared down, I felt his right hand was twitching a little bit, but it was a subtle tell for me. He is ready to unload that right hand, but I feel that could be a downfall for him if he lets that right hand go. I will not be there.
Maybe through all the world tours he already knew he had a penthouse in Aldo's brain, but maybe he already knew, and it was just a matter of waiting for the universe to catch up to his mind. As predicted, Conor sees Aldo swing the right, he bangs the left. Done. This is already an iconic moment in the sport, so it doesn't really get credit for how mind-boggling and world-shifting it was at the time. The GOAT of the division, unbeaten in 10 years, goes out in 13 seconds. This is like if Volkanovski got taken down and submitted in 5 seconds by Topuria. Such a sudden changing of the guard. You can even see afterwards, Conor has a lot of empathy and a lot of respect for Aldo. It wasn't an outburst of emotions like it was in his last fight, it was just, yeah, this is what happened, I knew this would happen. Genuinely fucking crazy, bro. Most people point to the Alvarez fight as Conor's peak, but this is the whole package for me. He predicted this with such scary accuracy, it seemed almost superhuman. I know right now people are clowning Izzy for saying he manifested the Dricus win, but given that Rob was such a big favorite, like, maybe there's something going on here that we don't know. Do I think manifestations or visualizations alone can will anything into existence? No, but it does seem like there's something that we can take from this. Anyway, Conor's next fight. Initially a move up to 155 to take RDA's belt, but RDA would pull out because his foot was a balloon. Again, Conor gives absolutely zero shits and he goes up to welterweight to take on Nate Diaz. This was such a fun build-up, bro. Trading insults left and right. It was clear that they respected each other, but it was so fun.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck either. I don't give a fuck either.
Fuck your bitch ass belt too.
Fuck the belt. I don't give a fuck about the belt. The only belt I care about.
Why you bring it everywhere? Why you bring it everywhere?
Fuck about nothing. The only thing I give a fuck about is the check, and my checks are super heavy.
Nate, congratulations. You're rich now. I like Nick's little bro. You know what I mean? How can you not like him? He's like a little cholo gangster from the hood. But at the same time, he coaches kids jiu-jitsu on a Sunday morning and goes on bike rides with the elderly. He makes gun signs with the right hand and animal balloons with the left hand. So you're a credit to the community.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Bell. I don't give a fuck what you say, motherfucker. Yeah, thugging on mine, motherfucker. What you got?
I respect Nate. Don't get me wrong. I do respect Nate. There's a lot of pussies in this game, and he is not one of them.
They're like, Gregor only wants to fight you. That's all they want is you to fight you.
I did.
All right, yeah, you did.
I'm looking forward to it, so let's do it.
And they gave me a fuckload of money. You know what I said? I said, I want more of that shit. How about that, motherfucker?
This was an easy fight, right? Conor had just taken out the greatest featherweight of all time, while Diaz was just some lightweight contender. Aldo is a lot better than Diaz, but Diaz ain't folding to shit, bro. I mentioned earlier that Conor seemed almost superhuman after the Aldo fight. It would seem that Conor would buy into this himself a little bit. In this camp, it was the typical person finds success and they start to let things slip. The fight rolls around, Conor thinks he's gonna come in and KO Diaz in 13 seconds as well, and
Diaz making up some ground here in the second round. Big here. Oh, he tagged with the goal in there. He tagged again. And Conor, look out for the chain. That's it. He's got the chain. Yeah, he shot. He has done it. He got his all over. Oh my goodness.
this was like the reverse of the Mendes fight. He went into the Mendes fight with a bunch of questions about his wrestling, his heart, etc. and he proved all the questions wrong. He proved all of them right against Diaz. No BJJ, no cardio, no heart. But in an impressive display of sportsmanship, Conor would face the music. He assessed himself honestly in the post-fight interview, he turned up to the post-fight presses, he did all the media that he didn't actually have to do. Again, like he had always been in the past, he was just genuine, real, and he vowed that he'd come back stronger.
I took the chance going at 170, but I was inefficient with my energy. But I'm humble in victory or defeat. I respect Nate. These things happen, I learn, I grow. I took a chance, came up way. It didn't work out. It is what it is. I'll face it like a man, like a champion, and come back and do it again.
It was an enjoyable fight. I would have liked him to be a little bit more efficient and not give towards the end of the second, but we live and we learn. You know, it stings real bad, but this is the fight business. I've been on the end of many defeats in my life and I've rose back, so I will not shy away from it. I will not make excuses for it. I will assess it and come back.
After what felt like his whole world crashing down in a matter of moments, he reassured all of his fans that he was still the man that we knew he was by handling it with such grace and such class. The build up to the rematch with Diaz was intense. The power dynamic was completely shifted and Conor wasn't really giving any precise predictions this time around. They threw bottles at each other, a staple of the Diaz attack strategy now. And the stage was set for the biggest fight in UFC history. It's moments like these that are kind of ruined by hindsight. People saying things like, oh, Diaz was never that good, Conor overrated, blah 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 blah. Conor weighed in at 169 without cutting any weight. Diaz weighed in at 170, probably cutting like 15 pounds. A featherweight knockout artist that doesn't have the best cardio, going up 2 weight divisions to fight somebody who can eat shots left and right without blinking. Think about all the boxing matches that are stuck in negotiations for years over just a few pounds or a rehydration clause. This is a 15-pound difference against maybe one of the worst matchups he could have had at the time. Second worst. That takes guts and that takes two
Big Irish balls.
The notorious Conor McGregor. Diaz. Here we go.
Conor clearly shows in the first 2 rounds that he's levels above Nate. Nate can't really get anything going until the end of the second where he starts turning up the heat a little bit. In the third round, you know when you're having those like dreams where you're trying to like fight somebody but you're punching in slow motion and they're just like walking forward eating every single punch and like you're about to get bashed up. The third round was an absolute nightmare for Conor. For a moment it was like, yeah, it's gonna be the same story as the first fight. Conor starts fast, does good, but gets finished later on. But Conor put his all into training for this fight. In the fourth round he dug deep, found a second wind, stole the round and stole the fight. Nate takes the fifth and they embrace after a complete war. Conor showed a lot of character here. He took the loss, reflected, he assessed himself honestly, he wasn't afraid to face the music, he came back stronger. Any questions about his heart or his courage were put to bed immediately with that inspirational performance, overcoming his adversity. The final chapter of the McGregor era for me, UFC 205, his quest to become a double champion. It was here that we kinda began to see warning signs of his descent into madness. He was a bit sporadic and crazy, but still, it was the fun, jovial Conor that we loved. He threw a couple chairs, he dropped a couple one-liners, it was all fun and games.
Who the fuck is that guy?
The hype was in full effect as Conor awaited a big challenge in Eddie Alvarez. Although Conor overcame Nate eventually, it did leave a couple questions. If Nate can do that to Conor, what would a world-class, world champion lightweight do to him? Would Conor's power translate to higher weights? Will he be able to handle a wrestler at 155? Eddie brought some genuine threats to Conor, and I would not blame you at all if you picked Eddie to win this fight. Eddie had the durability like Nate. Eddie had the wrestling like Chad, and he had just knocked out RDA in his last fight. This was a nightmare matchup for Conor. Or so we thought. Conor took poor Eddie to school, bro.
First man ever to hold 2 titles simultaneously. How does this all feel to you?
Where the fuck is my second belt? I've already got this one. Where's the second one at? Cheap motherfucker. They're not on my level. You gotta have size, reach, length. You've gotta have some attributes. If you come in any way equal to me, I'm gonna rip your whole head off, and that's it. I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants. This is what I dreamed into reality. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. God bless.
Conor McGregor, congratulations. It's been an honor calling your fight, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Conor McGregor, ladies and gentlemen.
The rise of Conor was a natural progression of trying to top your previous accomplishment. Featherweight champion in Cage Warriors, lightweight champion in Cage Warriors, UFC fighter, featherweight champion in the UFC, lightweight champion in the UFC. He always needed his goal to top the previous one to stay motivated. It was only natural for him to lose a bit of that drive when his goal didn't surpass his previous accomplishment, which is probably why he never defended the belts. After 205, he'd go and fight Floyd Mayweather in one of the biggest fights of all time. But 205 was the natural end of the McGregor era in my books. He did it all, rode off into the sunset, dual weight world champion, never fought again, retired on top, never did anything controversial afterwards either. There's a lot of negativity surrounding Conor's name nowadays, which is kinda sad for me. I'll never not be a fan of his for what he's done. His journey, the way he just captured the imagination like nobody else, the way he did exactly what he said he was gonna do at every step of the journey, the way he just had fun throughout it all. This era of Conor is so motivating and inspiring, and I hope this is how the world remembers him for years to come. I don't want to bury a man while he's still breathing. You know, he could come back, KO everybody, and make the greatest return in UFC history, but in my books, this is the era of McGregor. Hell of a ride, and I'll be rooting for him always.